Welcome to the FARcast here at Chadron State College. I'm Daniel Binkard with my co-host Alex Helmbrecht, and we're back after a short break. And our guest today is Tena Cook. She's the marketing coordinator here in College Relations. For the second part of our show with Tena here, we're going to talk about gingerbread houses, which I think is going to be an interesting and frankly delicious topic. So Tena, we'll let you take it from here after we reset.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Tena. Okay, great. Thanks for being here again and showing us a little bit more about gingerbread. So kind of give us a rundown of your history. I know you've been building these for a long time, and you get a lot of joy out of it. Talk a little bit about that and then kind of give us a rundown of the process.
Sure thing. I was about 12 years old, and we lived in Henry, Nebraska, and went to a gingerbread workshop in Torrington, Wyoming. And when we came home, Mom and Dad and I just kind of decided, like, we don't really have any Christmas traditions besides cutting a tree at the ranch and a Christmas letter. But we just decided we like doing this. Mom liked baking, Dad and I liked decorating. And so I would say I haven't missed very many years since 1974 of building gingerbread houses. And Dad has made some engineering tweaks to the pattern, and Mom did a lot of tweaking to the recipe so that the ingredients go together right. And then as Mom passed away 31 years ago, I decided I have to keep this tradition going. I can't let it go with her. So got a lot of decorations, and I get a lot of ideas from people, and a lot of folks that I share the gingerbread houses with recycle the little ceramic or plastic or metal figurines that go with them, so I can use them on another house for somebody the next year.
Oh, that's very special. Well, show us your process. We'd love to learn more.
The dough is made and then refrigerated overnight. The reason I discovered for that is 8 hours of nobody opening the refrigerator at night is a constant temperature, where if you refrigerate it 8 hours during the day, the door opens, the temperature goes up, the door closes, temperature goes down. So to get a real nice consistent dough, you refrigerate it 8 hours overnight in a flat kind of a shape like a plate, and that's going to be easy to roll out into an 11 by 17 pan. And then it needs to be cut while it's still hot, so you use a serrated knife, like a bread knife, or a steak knife, and you cut the pieces out while they're still hot. That gives you nice square edges. You get a nice construction because you've got nice sharp square edges. A lot of people think to cut out the pieces before they bake, but there's 3 teaspoons of baking powder in this, so it raises a lot. And so you would have a lot of round edges, and you wouldn't be able to make good solid construction steps if you were to cut it out before you make it. With really small children, I suggest either milk cartons that you just glue graham crackers to, or using kits from the store. It's too frustrating if they're little and don't have the fine motor skills yet to set up a gingerbread house freestanding. It's too frustrating for them.
And from my personal experience with little kids, they just want to eat the ingredients before it goes in the house.
Right. So you've got a lot of time and ingredients invested in a batch like this, where graham crackers, if they fall off the milk carton, they break, so what, Kits, I would be a little careful on eating those, just not knowing how long they've been in a shipping container. So it's fun and it's cute, and you can build from kits, but I would be a little cautious on consuming those. So the next step after it's been cut out and cooled is to cut a very small tip for your decorating. So it's a very fine tip, less than 1/4 inch across. And this is another common misnomer, is that you build the house first and then decorate it. But gravity's not your friend then, because everything's dripping off the sides. So as you can see, we want to decorate it while it's still flat. So I would take this really fine tip, and we're going to make a window. And often when I have moms in classes that I give, I encourage them not to worry about it being perfect, because especially if they're making it with their children, to keep everybody happy, it'd be better to just go along with imperfections. So those aren't perfectly straight lines. It's fun, it's whimsical, just let it go. If you want a perfect gingerbread house, make it at midnight when the kids are in bed. But to have a fun family tradition, the parent has to let go of caring how perfect it looks, or the child won't enjoy it.
So how much practice does it take to get a clean bead out of that?
Well, that's a good question. I used to use the tips, the Wilton tips, and the big icing bag. But as I've gotten more arthritis in my hands, those were too hard to push through the tips. So now I just use small snack-sized bags and cut the tip. And it really isn't hard to press the icing through the opening. It takes time, and you do want to put some pressure on it. Some people just ride along the top of the gingerbread with their icing, and then it falls off. And another key pointer is you need to use royal icing. There's 3 ingredients: powdered sugar, egg whites, and cream of tartar.
That looks very nice.
So it's a very simple recipe. It's just 3 ingredients. And the big mistake, I think, when I hear people say their house keeps falling down, is that they made it with cake icing or cookie icing. Those 2 kinds of icing or frosting are meant to stay soft. This gets very, very hard. It'll last for years. I've had people keep their gingerbread house for years. I'm like, okay, I'll make you a new one. Feed that one to the squirrels, please. If you don't eat it within the first, 3 months yourself, your family doesn't eat it, then yeah, you can store it in a dry place, a cool place, in maybe a closet with tissue paper over it for a while. But eventually the white icing pulls the brown of the molasses and the brown sugar out, and so you got yellow snow. So nobody wants to look at that, really, or definitely not eat it after it's a year old. So it's nice to eat them when they're fresh. And something that you can't see from the video, of course, that you can't experience is the aromatherapy of the cloves, the cinnamon, what else is in there? Cloves, cinnamon, ginger. Those are the 3 main spices. But when I have 3 gingerbread houses in my car and I'm driving them somewhere to a class or to give to somebody, it's like, oh, this smells so good.
It does smell very good.
It's really nice aromatherapy. And it dries pretty quickly. So if you're going to leave that window white, it would be fine. But if you want to get some decoration in it, you have to go pretty quickly. You need to.
And so these look like mini M&Ms?
They're just kind of a generic little round
Piece of chocolate.
ball. It's more like a little jawbreaker.
Oh, okay. And that's to look like Christmas lights?
It could be, or just, we're suspension of disbelief here, so we just have bright colored intersections on the window panes at our house, at our little magic house.
Beautiful.
That has windows made out of,
Well, and as you're doing that, could you talk about a little bit of some of the other elements that are maybe non-gingerbread? You were mentioning before we started recording that you use bugle chips for fireplace logs?
Right, for the flames coming up.
Oh, for the flames.
Yeah, fireplace logs can be pretzels or those raspberry sticks or orange sticks, the chocolate sticks. And then I set the bugles up behind them to look like flames. And then you can flip bugles over and they can be a sconce right by your front window, your front door. And you can put a candy cane in to be the flame. So the bugles have a lot of different uses.
Yeah. Are there other utilitarian pieces of, I guess, food that you can use in a lot of different ways when you're constructing, or is it just really dealer's choice? Whatever you're doing, it works.
It is, and I find myself when I am giving a class, if somebody just starts throwing stuff on there, I have to like take my own advice and not care. Like, this is not balanced, or it's not centered or whatever. You have to just let it go and let the kids have fun and use whatever. If they want to put cookies on the roof, just let them, or if they want to put licorice on the roof. My go-to things, I like this kind of a Swiss chalet look. I kind of like that. An Oreo cookie has 12 marks on it, so you can break those apart and put them up for a clock. They make a real nice clock, and they already have the mark on there, so you can make the 12 little. My dad discovered that, the little marks for the hours. For fences, I like sugar cubes. I just alternate them and build them kind of like a little fort. And mini Oreos make a nice fence. Also, pretzels make a nice fence. And then I always like to layer things, so I drip the royal icing down over that fence, whatever it is, so it looks like snow fell on it and melted. Even down as small as the doorknob, I'll put a little bit of snow on the top of the doorknob. So I think that's kind of the charm of it, that people notice when they're like, oh, you do so many details. It's like I put snow around the top of the chimney. If I'm going to put a chimney on the house, I try to drizzle snow like it would be around a chimney. A few years ago, one of my contributions to the recipe, Dad's was changing the shape of the house. It used to just have straight sides, but it looks a little more quaint as a cottage, and he brought the sides in just a tiny bit, but it makes it, as a cottage, it has a cuter look, more quaint. The Lincoln logs, I thought of the Lincoln log chimney is basically this shape with just a little triangle cut out. And then it straddles the roof perfectly, it stays in place. And for years we had a recipe pattern piece that was half of a chimney that just stayed, and it kept sliding down and sliding down. I'm like, how many years have we fought with this chimney that it won't stay because it just had one slant to it? And so one year it was, Eureka! Oh, Lincoln logs have that notch in the chimney that stays on the Lincoln logs. Use your back window to make a chimney that's going to stay. And you just set it on top of there and it stays. And if you want a thicker one, you just take the windows out of two different batches and just cut the triangle out of there, and you've got a thicker chimney. And then I use oftentimes chocolate rocks. That's a common candy that you can find at candy stores. And they really look real, but they are chocolate. And so I use those for chimneys and foundations, and a lot of times walkways.
I seem to remember you made a gingerbread house several years ago that used Pez as like a cobblestone walkway to the front door.
Yes. The Pez bricks are really fun to use. They're kind of like Legos.
So then you do all the exterior decorating, and then once you get that done, you build the house with, I suppose, the same principles?
Yes. Let me just put that back in the cooler. You do want to keep the icing cold while you're working with it, because it soaks up, it absorbs the heat of your hands, and then you start losing some of its glue or concrete, or like I tell the little students in my classes, it's the concrete, it's the nails, it's the glue that puts your house together, is this. So it's all entirely edible. But when it gets warm, it starts to give way, and it's softer, and it basically kind of melts. So you need it firm, so you need it cold. If I'm building a house and it's warm in my house and everything starts dripping, I run it out to the garage, and that way it'll chill, it'll set up, and I always keep my bags of royal icing back in the fridge to be cool. Once you start feeling warmth in this bag, then it's not going to apply right. So the next thing I would do with a really thick bead of the royal icing is construct the house. And we've already done that. So we would take all our 4 decorated sides and make the house, and then the larger pieces, which again is a little bit counterintuitive for folks. They want to make these the sides of the house. These are the roof pieces, and the sides are the small pieces. One of the engineering aspects that my dad changed on the original recipe we got, it came together like this. They were equal halves, and so it was a very weak connection, and that roof didn't tend to stay together. So he decided if we just change it and make one half of the roof the width wider than the other half, then you've got a good solid connection. So that's what I do. And then you're, again, building this part of the house with a nice wide bead. I'll kind of show you. It's close to 3/8 of an inch, probably cut across the little bag. So you can tell it's a lot different than what we were building the windows with, which was fine. So this is how you would build the house, and then this wide cut bag is how you would decorate. I like to cover all the cut surfaces. So I would cover this one with I'm going to cover these corners with candy canes. One of my favorite go-tos, you're asking. They cover the whole side of the corner of the house, and they're cute. They curve outward, and they cover the cut edges. Sometimes people don't feel like they have to cover all the cut edges like I do, but to me it feels like it's like in sewing. You just need to hem this fabric. You need to have a selvage there, so it doesn't feel like it's unraveled. So that's just my preference, and I just think it looks nicer to have all of the cut edges covered. So I would cover the top. I would figure out my design. You see some of the pokes that I've put in the roof when it was baking. Those are toothpick holes, and they keep it from bubbling up because it does like to bubble. The dough just does that after you roll it out. So it's nice if you can do a toothpick point every so often, then it lets those air bubbles breathe and break down. So I'd probably try to balance this out with one more stream along the top. Sometimes I have candy doves that I find like in maybe the wedding section of a craft store. So I might set some birds on that eave. And if you have a squeegee, it's nice to squeegee all your icing down so that you don't waste it. And with little kids, you want to make sure they don't pop this open by squeezing in the middle, because then all the icing goes all over their hands. So you want to try to keep the zipper part of that fastened while they're working. And jelly beans make a nice, cute little decoration on the roof. And again, you need to kind of work quickly. Once it starts to dry, then you're going to get a break that looks like, a break in ice or something when you try to push candies into a dried bead of the royal icing. In your career as a gingerbread homemaker, how many would you guess that you've made? I thought you might ask me that. The highest I ever made, and I probably won't do that again because I got sick, breathing all the wheat in and touching it all the time because I'm allergic to gluten. Anyway, was 30. So I have a note to self, don't do that again.
In 1 year?
Yeah.
Holy smoke.
Not necessarily all houses, but I've come up with other patterns like Noah's Ark, sleighs. The large candy canes make a really nice runner underneath the sleigh. So I made 30 items that year. You can get one sleigh and one ark out of one batch of dough. So you can go farther with it than one batch for one house. So let's see, we started in 74. I don't know, over 250 probably.
Good guess. Are you hosting any classes this year?
Yes. I did one at Chadron Open Arts, and then also the Cocoa Shack and Natural Food Co-op.
So is this a regular kind of thing? Each year you're doing those classes?
I offer them, every year. I try to do a few either for scouting groups, 4-H groups, church groups. I try to do at least 2 to 3 workshops or demos every year to kind of share that tradition. I don't have children of my own, so I like to share the recipes. I have about a 9-page packet that I give to people that has the recipe, the patterns, how to cut it out on the sheet, and different cookie suggestions for decorations in that packet. So I like to share those. So, and then sometimes just over at a friend's house, I'll do a little workshop for 2 or 3 people.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, I want to commend you, Tina, because both with calligraphy and with gingerbread, you do a really nice job of taking the talents that you have and the hobbies you enjoy and sharing those with people in the community and the surrounding region. I just think that's really special and a great example of a wonderful person who wants to give back. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I enjoy it.